Where did we go?
We never left.
We never left.
No.
Went in the ether.
We were somewhere. We're stuck to the chairs with tar, and we're not going to go anywhere. But what we do want to do is mention particularly devoted followers, and they call themselves the Daytona Crew. Something to do with the Daytona 500. Something to do with Daytona, Florida, and it's beautiful white beach. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's gorgeous. It goes for as long as the eye can see. And they are Norm and Sandy, Sue and Don, Bonnie, and Sparky Jr., MJ and Dave, Connie and Bob, Dave and Diane, Jack and Diane, no, just Dave and Diane, and Steve and Holly.
Holly Ollie Oxenfree?
Oh, yeah. That's it. Special shout out to them. And we're going to lead off, like we always do for the past 18 years, with a bit of current events. The first one I'll just throw off here. Rolling Stones announced North American Stadium Tour. It's going to be called the No Filter Tour. Maybe keys back to No Filter Pall Malls. It's going to go kick off in San Diego and go from there. Frontman Mick Jagger, I'm sure you've heard of him. He's rather famous. It's always a pleasure to return to North America and play for some of the biggest and best crowds in the world. You know what I mean? Until one of them just drops dead, you're not going to be able to put a stake through the heart of the Rolling Stones. So that's it. He has some new valves in his heart, and he's gone again.
Something along those lines, Jimi Hendrix's Band of Gypsies is getting a 50th anniversary vinyl reissue.
Interesting.
There hasn't been that many reissues of Hendrix.
Hendrix has cooled off a bit. For a while in the 70s, you could not get away from it. And I remember there was one called Crash Landing, and what they did is they stripped all the musicians out of the original recording except Hendrix, came in with new guys, and it was such a bizarre concept, and put Hendrix's lead over it. And it sold 1 billion copies. People were so thirsty for Jimi Hendrix.
And Frank, this is interesting for the, how to put this, the really big fans out there of the quality pressing. So this one is going to be from analog tapes. So no computers are going to go into the production. It's 180-gram audiophile black vinyl, and apparently there's an 8-page booklet that's coming with it. So it's
usually they have to
high quality.
Yeah, usually they have to throw a spicer in. So usually it's the booklet. Yeah.
And in sad news, Soundgarden revealed that they learned about the passing of Chris Cornell via Facebook. They have revealed that they had learned about it through their Facebook page in a filing as part of their current legal dispute with the singer's widow, Vicky Cornell. Surviving band members Kim Thile, Ben Shepherd, and Matt Cameron claimed that Matt Cameron saw the news on his Facebook page after the band show in Detroit on May 17th, 2017. Now, how sad is that?
That's pitiful.
Where you find out,
your
friend, the man that created the band, is gone, and you find out via Facebook. No one could give you a call. Like, it's not as if
the manager.
Yeah,
usually it's a manager.
So I'm not sure exactly where that ended up going after that. So obviously there is some legal dispute that's still going, and you know how these things go. They'll take years before things get resolved. As you had mentioned, Ian, in our previous shows regarding Joey Kramer coming back, Aerosmith is announced that they are doing a 50th anniversary show, and obviously it comes the fact that
that's true. 1970, they formed.
50th anniversary, so it's going to be a big year for Aerosmith. They're going to be the show is billed under the banner Bad Boys of Boston, and obviously it's going to take place in Boston's historic Fenway Park on September 18th, 2020. It's funny because Tyler's from New York.
Well, I know.
it just throws me off.
They've always done this Boston Beantown thing, and you don't think of Aerosmith as from Boston.
I just think Boston's from Boston.
Yeah, really.
And then the Dropkick Murphys, they're traditionally they're a Celtic band from Boston. So
I know Aerosmith's a bizarre band that way. But speaking of making money, did I say that? According to License Global, that's the name of a company, Kiss has teamed with Marvel on a collection of merchandise spanning apparel, accessories, home goods, and more. This is so Gene Simmons, right? He's so effing good at this stuff. So there you go. 2020 will have more Kiss apparel because I guess we didn't have enough.
So we'll have the Kiss Gene Simmons blender where basically his tongue is making your...
No, you're going to get
good.
a Beth doll. I think that's what they're going to give you. A doll of Beth. That's the...
Maybe, yeah. Really didn't blow up that doll.
Oh, Lord. Speaking of stuff from the 60s, there's a great news for you fans of trivia out there. The Wrecking Crew follow-up film is in production.
Oh, interesting.
So I think, Ian, we talked about this on one of our previous podcasts. The Wrecking Crew was this amazing group of musicians who in the late 50s or early 60s?
All
the way to the 70s, were basically on every track of every great album. That was not from, let's say, not Fleetwood Mac and all those guys, but like the more mainstream stuff.
Yeah, any band that needed, even if they had the Beach Boys, like they played instruments, you can't play them as well as the Wrecking Crew. So, you know what? You guys can play this live, Dennis Wilson, but we're recording Pet Sounds. We can't fuck around here. You know, we gotta. You know,
you in that Pet Sounds album.
Well, it's just so good.
Now, we've known Ian for, I'm going to sidebar, we've known Ian for years now, and I think since the beginning of time that we spoke, Pet Sounds has come up as one of your favorite albums.
No, it's incredible.
You love that album. Yeah. Actually, I have it, not on vinyl, I have it on CD. You have it on vinyl, I believe, eh?
Yeah, but when I bought it, it wasn't such a big deal. I bought it in the 70s. It wasn't like, it's Pet Sounds.
The album cover is cool, though. They're
Pardon me?
Mono stereo.
Yeah, mono, as they say in the back, just like Brian cut it.
Yeah, because they have it. I have the disc I have has both mono and the stereo version, and the cover is pretty cool because they're like petting goats and stuff.
No, yeah, they didn't really. It's so crummy. I know that it's a bad picture. But Pet Sounds is they use a Wrecking Crew on that. People like Carol Kane, and then they brought them in to really make it tight. The thing is too, you're on studio time, and you can't wait around for Dennis Wilson to learn what a 4/4 beat is. When you're on tour, it's different sound. It's a different But my colleague here just passed me the Pet Sounds album. Original mono program, and if you look at the actual album, it says cut in beautiful monaural sound, just like Brian.
Monaural sounds
sound.
like a disease.
Yeah, it used to be in mono does too, though.
Mono.
There you go, 1966.
Any other albums you want me to pull out, or
no? Get away from me. That was slightly suggestive.
So is this it for current events?
Well, let's see here. Queen guitarist Brian May was involved in an altercation with a cameraman shortly after arriving in Brisbane Airport in Australia. He was signing autographs for fans, spotted a News 7 cameraman filming, asked him to stop. The cameraman did not put his camera away, and there was a little tussle. So
apparently you really have to piss him off to get to that point. He really is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life.
Well, let's give him some good news now. Like he in Australia, they did a benefit concert, and Queen with Adam Lambert was there, and they raised $10 million, which is going to the relief fund for the wildlife in Australia. And he was posing with a koala bear in his arms. So there is a soft side to Brian May.
Well, even softer because the koala probably peed all over him. Those things are like a diaper. You squeeze them the wrong way, they go.
But there's remember, my cousins, they live down in the land down under, and they said, guys, you have to understand one thing. It's still a bear. Even though it's a cute little cuddly bear, it's still a bear. They're claws.
Really long claws, but they're stoned, so they don't move fast, thank God.
Yeah. And apparently if you ever want to freak your little brother or like a kid into submission, you play a recording of a koala bear scream.
And they're horrible.
It's the most horrible thing you've ever heard in your life. Like, it sounds like a grizzly bear.
I've heard them. They're like squealing tires.
Actually, Yoko Ono singing is probably worse than that.
Maybe. Final.
That's probably what the CIA is going to use to torture people, like the cover of a Yoko Ono song by a koala bear.
no, Yoko Ono stepping on a koala bear.
Yoko Ono imitating
that'd be better. Queen played for the story. The original 22-minute set that they did at 1985 Live Aid.
30 years this year? 35 years this year?
Bohemian Rhapsody, Radio Gaga, Hammer to Fall. Really, I know that.
Yeah, that's the one.
Crazy Little Thing Called Love, and We Will Rock. Never heard of it. Or We're the Champions. Totally obscure. That's what they did for that. Van Halen, David Lee Roth played his 6th show as a support act for Kiss. Oh, God. Imagine this. They're talking about the ego has landed. You got 2 guys. Gene Simmons, I got to see that backstage, and David Lee Roth.
It's not a money thing, is it? It can't be a money thing.
Yeah, it can be. He was broke not that long ago.
Roth?
Yeah.
Oh.
He did 11-song set, including some of his older band, they say old band's greatest hits. So you got Roth opening for Kiss. Okay, whatever. That said, I think it about wraps us up for trivia or current events, and we're going to go into the mainstay, ladies and gentlemen, of our topic today, and it is one that is life-affirming, even though you might think it's a little bit morbid, but it's not, because what we're trying to demonstrate is how dangerous the industry of rock and roll actually is. Its practitioners don't have a lot of longevity, actually, and we're going to get right into it and see what happened to some of these poor guys, but in a good way.
Well, exactly. So,
Yeah,
Dearly Departed.
Dearly Departed.
Dearly Departed. Wow, I like the title of that one, Wheels. Did you think about that in your sleep or when you were like medicating yourself?
The medication.
Oh, okay.
So the first one, of course, we could not talk about this subject without him. It's Jimi Hendrix, who died at 27. So the 27 Club does come up in this.
Which you've done a part on. You go
Season 2. Show 4.
go to the website under podcasts.
FerrisWheelRockShow.com.
So Hendrix was born in 42, died in 1970, and it was such a shock when he died at 27 that there were actually conspiracy theories way before this was a fashion. Like now, everything's a conspiracy theory.
True.
Back then, that was a lot rarer. We never saw that as much. And so some of the claims I've actually seen was he was killed by the CIA. He was waterboarded with wine.
I like that one.
How complex can you get?
Unless I went to an Italian guy's wine cellar.
Yeah.
Another one was that he was kicked in the throat by Bruce Lee. So the trachea was broken.
Okay, you're just trying too hard.
Of course, I mean, it was hard for people to swallow the fact that he had passed at such a young age, but they actually since asked his girlfriend at the time, Monica Danman, how she found him, because she was the one who found him around midnight on September 18 in her apartment in Notting Hill. So for those of you who have a girlfriend that is really into romantic movie, tell her what really happened in Notting Hill and tell her you cannot watch that movie again.
Especially if I'm going to pass out in barbiturates.
But it's interesting you say 1970, right, Wheels? That he died. So what? Woodstock was in 1969, July or something like that. August, and he died like
nearly a year after.
So this conspiracy theory about the CIA sounds pretty good right about now. Or maybe he went to some mobster's house and drank all his wine. I'll take that one.
The CIA, by the way, is a government organization. Always think government. There's no conspiracy. They want to go home, play with their kids, and go to sleep. Get pensionable hours. It's over. No. Let's kill Hendrix. No, they don't do that.
So the thing he died really of when they did the postmortem was basically asphyxia. He aspirated his own vomit, mostly because he was so intoxicated with sleeping pills that his body was basically not responsive anymore.
Well, later they found that actually wasn't his vomit. I'm kidding.
I thought you were serious.
It's an old Spinal Tap joke.
Oh, wow, okay.
So many rock stars choked on their own vomit. Somebody in the movie Spinal Tap said, yeah, well, it actually wasn't his vomit. Which makes this story even
So weird.
What the hell happened?
So random.
Anyway.
So the next name, of course, is, again, the 27 Club honorary member, Janis Joplin.
No, yeah.
Me and Bobby McGee.
Hey, she did a good job on that one. She did a good
actually.
job.
Unfortunately, she never knew the fame because of that, because she died before the
Yeah,
record
she
was
did.
released.
She did.
She was a rough kind of chick, though, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Horrible life before that.
Horrible life.
She had substance abuse problems from the teenage years all the way to her death.
It's really bad. Her life was rotten.
She had a great voice, though.
Great voice. Boy, could she crank it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was her road manager who found her, who was actually coming with good news about.
Well, she was due at the studio recording with a producer named Paul Rothschild, who was well known for producing The Doors. And the guy had a bizarre. He was actually a former convict, and he was producing. He wanted her. She was 2 days late.
Yeah.
He said, "Go get her." And that's how they found her.
Rothschilds.
So the official cause of death in this case was accidental heroin overdose.
Heroin?
Yeah, heroin.
Oh, what? Heroin?
Heroin.
Jesus.
Never mind.
Heroin.
Heroin with the French accent.
And it's apparently that this is not official, but apparently her dealer wanted her to have a really good time, so apparently the dosage was about double what it should have been.
Well, the trivia too behind that is she was the heroin derived from a guy named Jean de Beaupril, who was actually a kind of Moroccan royalty, and he's the same guy that supplied dope in a roundabout way to Jim Morrison. So this and maybe it was a Brian Jones. There was one more. This guy, and he himself died. And I thought, boy, this guy, he has the worst possible clientele. I mean, he was just I'm not sure he's a drug addict himself. He went out with Marianne Faithfull, but he helped us. He just kind of dosed the dose.
Oh yeah,
and these people,
it was 40 to 50% pure.
yeah, and they didn't know, so they're popping these things in their vein, and it blew the top of their heads off. You know, it's just so awful. They're so young and goofy. You know, this.
But the thing is, like, some people saw it as an omen that apparently in her will, then again, 27-year-old has a will at that time. She set aside $2,500 funds for a wake party in case of her death, which tells you something about the...
Good point. The mentality, yeah.
The mentality. Her body was cremated and her ashes were scattered over the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, okay.
Which, again, I think in the late 60s, early 70s was rather rare. Cremation was not
not a lot of people got cremated. It was like an Eastern religion thing back then.
Maybe you can't just throw her body in the ocean.
You could. You got to get away fast, though. No,
No, I'm just saying. Like
no. The idea...
There was burial at sea back then. But
It was a big deal.
Burial at sea? That's,
Dennis Wilson was buried at sea, but they had to get special dispensation from President Reagan.
That's kind of odd that you said that, just because he drowned.
I know. True.
No, I'm being serious.
Yeah,
like it's crazy. Like,
But he was the Beach Boy, right? Doobie girls. Doobie girls.
So our next one is, again, a member of the 27 Club.
Yes.
Jim Morrison.
Oh, yeah.
James Douglas Morrison.
You don't mean Jimbo.
So apparently in this case he was found dead in a bathtub in Paris, although there were rumors of him hanging himself.
No, hanging. How do you hang yourself in a bath? Okay.
With a
Let's
shower
see what happens here. I'm going to try to work this. I'm okay.
No, I heard someone threw the toaster in the bathtub.
Yeah, they said, here, catch this. And he caught it. Never catch the toaster.
Well, that would make sense because he died of a heart failure.
Yeah, like, if you look at this guy's lifestyle, it's amazing he made it that long.
That's overdose. Has to be overdose.
No. Now, the new theory there, it's actually not bad, is that he died at a nearby nightclub. He overdosed in the washroom, the toilet. And, of course, they didn't need that publicity because they had enough drugs dealing. They said, get him out of here. So two guys hustled him out and brought him back to the place he was staying in and put him in a bath because that was a well-known come-down for heroin overdose. And that's where he died. And that's where he was dead. They brought him in dead.
Well, the thing is, we can't really check, apparently, because there were no autopsy done on the body.
No, there was no autopsy, but there was a doctor came and checked him out. And online, there's a really strange documentary made in Paris about 20 years ago. And they speak to one of the ambulance attendants who took care of his body. So there's no mystery. Like, is Jim Morrison still alive? This guy saw the body, and he was stone. He was a little bit warm because of the water, but he was dead as a doornail in in the bathtub, and his girlfriend Pam Corson was running around, freaking out, of course, but because she had just flushed all the heroin and junk down the toilet, so the police wouldn't find it. But there's no in Paris, in France, they don't do an autopsy unless they suspect foul play, and there's really no foul play. He wasn't murdered. He did.
But there's no proof though, because actually, he wasn't. You're right. He wasn't murdered because it wasn't overdose. But there was no technology that they have today. There's no cameras. There's none of that stuff. Social media was non-existent, which is kind of nice because of all the crazy crap I did in my past. I'm glad no one could find it.
Although
thank God that didn't exist.
Again, Morrison, like Hendrix, started a lot of conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Although in this case, it's more of the Elvis kind.
I know.
People think they see him. Every once in a while, but
Please.
Oh yeah, I see Jesus too. By the way, just so you know.
well, considering though he was born in the early 40s today, you would probably see him in a wheelchair if it were the case.
Wait, early 40s, would that make him what?
It'd be late 70s.
Late 70s?
Considering how he lived in his 20s.
Yeah, not necessarily though. Look at Keith. Well, I guess it's all genetics, right? Keith Richards and and Mick Jagger, they're still going.
Jagger's a freak.
Angus Young is still going. Not that he's had a drug. Not that we had any drugs. Well, they probably did, but not as much as Keith.
Keith is incredible. No, Morrison was a mess. He had rheumatic fever as a kid, which weakens your heart. He had serious asthma. He was a heroin. Like, he's not going to make it to 30.
I thought he would have died more of like a STD of some sort.
He was loaded with STDs. The guy's
because he had numerous women. Everybody.
Numerous, incredible, and not just women.
Oh, he did. Oh, really?
That was the rumor.
That was the rumor. Okay,
probably
like a John Lennon thing.
Oh yeah, that. He's speaking about Brian Epstein. We'll do a show on that sometime.
So our next one is again the 27 Club.
27 Club.
Our friend here is going to be happy to hear this name, Kurt Cobain.
1994, April 5th. Yeah, no, I'll never forget that day. I heard it on the news. I was with my buddy Brent, that we went to high school with. We were going to see a movie that night. I'll never forget it. His dad was making us dinner, and as he's making dinner, just watching the news, and he's like, "Hey guys," he goes, "You guys, the band you listen to?" And sure enough, Cobain was found dead in his home. A few theories on that one. Few theories. What did they say? They said, well, you go, Wheels, and I'll
so it's not so much the theories right now that the really horrible thing about Cobain's the discovery of Cobain's body was that it was 3 days later.
Yeah, that's true.
And so and the guy had just come out of rehab. Like, there was so much hope around all of this, and it was such a shock to the system for everybody. But the conspiracy theories, even though the internet was in its infancy at this point, just really exploded from April 6th on.
There was a whole bunch. A few of them went on. They said that he overdosed, and because of some sort of insurance money for the life insurance, they staged it, and then they shot him with his own gun. That was one story.
Well, that would wipe out life insurance.
Well, there was some sort of clause.
You can't honor suicide.
So
insurance policy.
I don't know where they got that one.
Some stupid guy made that one.
Yeah, so that was one.
What about if we?
They're saying it was then the whole thing with the whole gun. It was they were saying they were blaming Courtney Love. They were blaming Dave Grohl. They were blaming the
Francis Bean.
No, not the dog.
Okay,
poor
right,
kid.
right.
Yeah, imagine that. It's in Danny Goldberg's book. But yeah, there was too many conspiracy theories. Look, it happened the way it happened. It's sad. The guy came out of rehab. There was a hope, and a lot of these things, unfortunately, these guys, when they come out of it, they can't shake it off. Like, a perfect example here, sidebar trivia, Elaine Staley went into rehab 13 times, and then it was done. Like, 13 times, that's a lot.
Well, also Cobain had mental illness all his adult life.
Yeah, he was bipolar.
Yeah, he had big serious issues. He always had stomach trouble. The guy was a mess. It was just a matter of time. He was
yeah.
he was
Taking time
he was a
off.
man.
It's always sad to hear this, and this
I
one here
know.
particularly touches me more in the sense of the era that I grew up in.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is my favorite band. That people who know me know that. So yeah, of course, it's sad just because he was so creative and smart. Not taking it aside from like Hendrix and all them, they were creative, but it was a different time.
Oh, yeah.
When you grew up in a different time,
Yeah,
you know?
I agree with that. In fact, I was too young for Hendrix. He was dead before I knew about him.
Yeah, because you were just a kid when it happened.
I was just a kid, but when someone like, David Bowie died, or
Yeah. Well, 'cause you
John
remember-
Lennon,
Yeah,
that was
Lennon.
the best one. I was in university when John Lennon died. That's when it hits home because you're mature and what's he doing now? He's a new album called Double Fantasy. He's been shot. Why? So, yeah, same thing.
I prefer the John Lennon story where he says to Yoko, "I'm going out and get a pack of smokes," and a year and a half later he shows up because he went to Vegas with McCartney and who else? The guys from Kiss, or
He goes out to L.A. with Keith Moon. That'll do it.
those are the stories I want to hear. So yeah, sorry, Cobain there. Yeah, it's
So my next one didn't even wait till he'd be 27.
Oh, yeah?
Sid Vicious.
he was 21.
He was
21.
really young.
Never mind the bollocks.
So
What was his name again? What was his real name? Gordon? So funny. He was just an ordinary.
I didn't really bother because frankly nobody would know.
No, I'll go get it. You guys keep talking. I'll find it. I'll find it for you.
So Sid Vicious, this is probably worthy of a horror movie.
Was this the one about his mother?
No, this is the one where basically he wakes up and his then girlfriend Nancy.
Nancy Spungen. Yeah, she's a.
She's a dead corpse next to him.
John Simon Ritchie, guys.
That's his name.
And basically, she's laying dead with a stab wound in her stomach on the bathroom floor of their hotel room in Manhattan. Everybody knew they had a destructive relationship.
No
but,
kidding.
It's just, he got arrested automatically for that, of course. And every time they asked him, Vicious changed his version of the story. Once he said, "I stabbed her, but I never meant to kill her," which is, I think, the stupidest thing you can say.
Yeah, but he's not a heavyweight,
No, exactly. There were so many versions of it, but eventually, basically, 10 days after her death, he went on a suicidal mission, basically. So 10 days after her death, he smashed a light bulb and used it to slit his wrists.
Great.
After that, because of course, you have to know what you're doing, and he didn't. He was hospitalized. So he chose, look, there's a window, I'm going to jump through it. Didn't work either.
This is like a Jerry Lewis movie.
Oh, yeah. And after a few months after her death, on February 1st, there was a party, and he basically, it was to celebrate the fact that he was finally going to detox.
And this is a bad idea.
Exactly. And to celebrate the fact that he was going to get better, he asked his friend for some heroin, saying, "Oh, it's going to be my last time." Well, he wasn't off. He died of an overdose a few hours later. But what's strange is that a few days later, they found a note, actually at his mother's place,
Right.
which is what you were bringing up.
Yeah.
And the note was basically saying, "We had a death pact. I had to keep my half of the bargain. Please bury me next to my baby. Bury me in my leather jacket, jeans, and motorcycle boots. Goodbye."
Yeah, his mother was talk about a piece of work. She supplied the heroin that killed him.
And they're still saying, hey, his death is still the biggest mystery 40 years after. Like, they're still trying to figure that out because, like you said, yeah, he was being accused for killing Nancy. So, and it's kind of weird.
He probably in some dopey, drugged out haze, he stabbed her, but it's not like it's premeditated murder. He could just have easily, buffed her nails. Whatever. He's just a nut. He's a 20-year-old kid on heroin. Huh. There's no mystery to it.
Okay, so you're going along with that, saying he probably did do some pain to her. And
sure.
Yeah, okay.
They're a mess. Check out the movie with Sid and Nancy, starring Gary Oldman. Oh, that guy's what an actor. But no wonder he won an Academy Award. But they were just really dreadful people. What they became was dreadful, and so it's not surprising at all.
It was a toxic relationship from the beginning.
No,
Oh, yeah.
no pun
In every
intended.
sense of the word.
Yeah, it was
no
toxic,
pun
yeah.
intended.
The next one is Randy Rhoads.
Oh,
That was bizarre.
The airplane.
Yes.
Ozzy's a guitarist, or no?
You can't.
So he
Yeah.
died at 25. So again, another case of didn't get to 20, even to 27.
I don't think they really planned it. Wheels.
No.
I'm gonna do a 25 quarter century. I'm good.
So let me go up in this airplane. No, wait a second. I'll stay on the ground and get hit by it.
Exactly. So Randy Rhoads
get hit by a plane?
was known for one thing. He was a beast on the guitar. However, it was known in a few circles that he had a fear of flying, which makes his death so much worse.
It's bizarre. Yeah.
His final show was at the Knoxville Civic Coliseum on March 18, 1982. The following day, he was on his way to an outdoor festival called Rock Super Bowl 14 in Orlando, Florida, and he was traveling with his band, the Ozzy Osbourne Band. They stopped by Leesburg, and while Ozzy and Sharon slept on an adjacent tour bus, he was with Rachel Youngblood and Andrew Aycock. They went on a joyride using the Beechcraft Bonanza.
God.
Aycock had an expired pilot's license, and he made around 2 passes, and basically he wanted to freak out the sleeping people.
Yeah, Osborne's, yeah.
And on the third one, the plane wing clipped the top of the bus, causing it to spiral out of control, then hit a pine tree before finally crashing in the garage of a nearby house. Basically, everybody on the plane was killed. All bodies were unrecognizable, and Rhoads was identified solely on the fact that he was wearing tons of jewelry. That was
It's so bizarre that I always thought that was the most. Talk about conspiracy. What a bizarre accident.
Oh yeah.
To have fun, you're buzzing a tour bus. Like, everyone must be stoned.
Oh yeah,
Because your judgment is that of a 5-year-old. You buzzed it.
Plus, he's afraid of flying. So
Yeah, really.
less sense.
That was a Facebook video. You know, they have these history type of videos that pop up on your Facebook watch feed, and that one came up, and I was listening to that one. I'm like, this is sad. Like, literally, like you said, this guy had a fear of flying, and he was up and coming. Like, he's already known for what he did.
Yeah, sure.
And this guy's career was pretty well cut short.
No kidding.
Apparently, Ozzy to this day still feels guilty about all this.
Yeah.
No, it's not his fault.
No, it's not his fault, but he said it.
I know how you would. You would feel kind of weird about it. He's a boy. He's 25 now. Ozzy's, 70? Like, you leave these guys behind. It's a weird feeling.
Oh, yeah. So my next one is Dwayne Allman, who died at 24.
Yeah, motorcycle, right?
Yes. And basically because he was addicted to speed. Not the drug, the literal speed of the
I don't even picture him that way. He's this laid back Southerner. I didn't think he'd be.
Oh, they were country boys, these guys. Like,
Yeah, kind of a country boy. Anyway, that was sad. Super gifted. Like, what a great guitar player.
And it's actually kind of a Jimmy Dean kind of end.
Yeah, I know.
So he was basically on his Harley Davidson Sportster that he was really proud of. And of course he wanted to test out the speed.
Mm-hmm.
Was driving apparently really above the speed limit. And he got to a place called Bartlett Street. And all of a sudden he saw a flatbed truck basically putting on the brakes at the intersection. Of course, you're on a bike, there's an 18-wheeler in front of you, chances are gravity is going to do its thing. He tried to swerve and to avoid it, completely lost control of his motorcycle. He skidded over, I don't know how many miles. He finally turned over, and when they calculated it, he basically traveled 50 miles.
No, it couldn't be 50 miles. 50 meters.
50 feet, sorry. 50 feet.
50 miles.
50, wow! It's like he's going halfway from here to, I don't know, going from
The guy goes from Orlando somewhere down to St. Petersburg.
So 50 feet.
50 miles. Wow! Jeez.
And the really horrible part of this is he didn't die there.
I didn't know that.
He survived just long enough to go into the emergency room.
He skidded to the emergency room.
Can you imagine?
He went 50 miles. So
He'd pass about 4 or 5 emergency rooms on the Can you imagine the road rash?
Imagine driving by this guy. Look at this guy.
So basically, he died 3 hours in the hospital
was he?
of
Okay.
massive internal injury.
What was it? Georgia somewhere? I know it was the South.
Macon,
Georgia.
Oh,
yeah.
Mason.
Macon.
Macon?
Yeah.
Yeah, rhymes with bacon.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Macon, Georgia. 50
Yeah.
miles. Imagine
So he went
Miles
home.
on your bacon.
that's
He
a...
went to Florida skidding on the side of his bike. Did he take a lunch with him? Because that's, you're there for a while.
The devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal. He was in a bind.
Now, the trivia on that, I'll add to it, is the member of that band, Allman Brothers band, died in the same place about 2 or 3 years later on a motorcycle. Almost exactly the same corner. I think the same corner. Bizarre. It's just, you can't make this stuff up.
50 miles.
And he skidded 50
I
miles.
think we should rename this one to...
50 miles.
No, the 50-mile club.
It's kind of like the Mile High Club, but it's 50 miles.
On your ass. Okay.
In case you get bored dying, you can bring an iPod. Yeah.
Brian Jones, next one.
What is your friend?
Oh, yeah, well.
George Thorogood.
They were George Thorogood and Destroyers, absolutely.
So basically, again, we're in the 27 club, and another case of a really weird death. In this case, he was found floating face down in a swimming pool. Although now there are a bunch of new theories on.
Yeah, like he was earlier that week or the week before, he had really irritated some guys working on his house. I think his name was Frank Thorogood, and his buddies. They regarded him as kind of this decadent, rich little hippie. And so there was a rivalry, but unfortunately he'd fired them finally that morning, the whole group of them. And yet that evening, this happened in the evening, they were in a pool together, and as a kind of a semi-friendly gesture, when after Jones, who wasn't a bad swimmer apparently, he was a strong swimmer, they held him under a little too long. And by the time they released him, he didn't float up.
And they couldn't do CPR?
They ran. They scattered like bed bugs to light. He had some drugs and some alcohol in him.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, he had asthma.
So it was basically ruled death by misadventure.
Yeah.
Of all the horrible ways of.
Misadventure. In other words, not calling the Better Business Bureau to do your reference check on these contractors that you hire. No, I'm just being serious. I want to know if you have a history.
Did he kill Brian Jones? I bet it was somebody else then. I just need the garden, redone.
So in this case, also when they did the autopsy, in this case,
Yeah.
they found an enlarged liver and heart.
No kidding.
So-
These guys live pretty hard.
He was a small guy, though, eh?
Little guy, small as stone, and maybe Bill White was smaller actually.
So his action was ruled as drowning. Is that what it is?
Basically.
Accidental drowning or whatever it was, yeah. Now, there's an addendum on that. As Thorogood, the supposed murderer, was on his own deathbed, I think in the late 80s, he confessed to Jones' murder. To his
That 100%?
Yeah, well, it was reported in a reputable newspaper, like the Evening Standard or something, yeah.
So he actually admitted to that.
Yeah, he's on his deathbed. Now, he might have been kind of hallucinating, whatever, but he said, yeah, we didn't mean to. We killed Brian.
Well, it could be like a Salieri thing. Also, it could have been completely insane.
Yeah, really. Although
can't really-
Salieri did kill Mozart.
So I guess he can't charge him.
Yes, he timed it pretty close, yeah.
He was pretty,
It's like the guy who admitted to killing Alpha, the I can't remember his name, the guy in the Irishman. I hear you paint houses.
Yeah, I dabble a little bit, Yeah, see, again, but then, sidebar, Hoffa, there's so many theories about, did he just disappear? Did he really die? Did he, he was buried in the Meadowlands football stadium?
Yeah, that was it. He's in the concrete somewhere.
Yeah, or he's in an oil drum. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff. We don't know.
He was in a difficult job. It wasn't going to end well, right?
No, but he all he had to do was just shut up.
Yeah, but that wasn't Jimmy Hoffa's style.
No, I know.
He made it by his mouth.
Okay, my next one is Cliff Burton.
From Metallica.
From Metallica, who died at 24. Again, another horrible way of going.
Should we do a 24 club, by the way?
You've been a 4 and a 25 club.
In this case, it's really like this horrible story where basically they were on the road in September, and Cliff Burton and Kirk Hammett drew cards to decide who got to choose their bunks. Burton won with the ace of spades, and Hammett said, "Fine, take my bunk, I'll sleep up front, it's probably better anyway." Before 7 a.m. the following morning, the band woke up with the bus skidded over the road. It had basically flipped from side to side, and according to the driver, he had hit a patch of black ice. When it flipped over, Burton was thrown out of the window, and the bus landed on top of him, which sounds kind of like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah, that's just totally bizarre.
But did it go 50 miles? That's what I want to know. This is the question.
The other guys had lunch while they're going down the highway.
That's sad, man. You you win a card game, and you get shafted.
Well, it sounds like the Buddy Holly story, yeah.
Kirk Hammett must be like, "Ooh, well, jeez."
I'm glad I lost that one.
And of course, because we're now in the age of conspiracy, James Hetfield apparently has said there was no such thing as black ice on that road, because he went out and looked. Investigation, however, cleared the driver of any charge.
There you go.
So it was just misfortune. You know?
He lost control of the bus. It flipped. It happens. So what?
But he flew out the window.
I don't know if he had regular windows. You can't fly out on one of those rinky-tinky.
I think it's a bus window.
Yeah,
so
it
it's
must be a
large.
big one, yeah.
So
Sounds like a school bus.
He went 50 miles.
Exactly. Up in the air, went back, and then the bus went.
Well, actually, he hit the plane that was about to kill Runny Roads. So the whole thing was a disaster. It just was really ugly.
Wow, took a nice turn. I like this. Wow.
All right.
We're going to hell for this one.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're just trying to lighten this up a little bit because we're giving you the news you need to know for a happy life.
Speaking of unhappy life, in this case, though, Nick Drake.
That's an unhappy life.
That is a very unhappy life. And if you've ever heard his music, it's you got a good sense.
Didn't you do Pink? Was it Pink Moon? Right.
Amongst other things, he was a really amazing musician. He was actually, unlike a lot of guys in rock, he was actually a brilliant man. He had a degree from Cambridge.
Yeah, too smart in the wrong way almost for his job. Yeah.
Came from a family of intellectuals. Basically, though, he suffered from depression from the day he hit his teens. Never moved out of his parents' house, and was finally found overdosed on antidepressants.
Cheap rent, man. He didn't leave his parents' house. I like that.
But although to this day, nobody knows if it's accidental or intentional.
Yeah, kind of in the gray area. Yeah. Trivia there, they used, I think it was a song, the Pink Moon's an album, right? There's a song. It's an album. They used that for commercials. There's some commercial that came out. It's very bizarre the way these things work out, eh?
The next one is the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, who died relatively young. Like we
I know.
When he was 35 and died in 77.
I know he was 43, I think.
Something
I remember that, like your Cobain story. I remember the day Elvis Presley died. I was just a teenager. He seemed so old. I thought to myself, well, he's 43. I mean, it's no big. It wasn't that shocking. And you hadn't heard from him in a long time. He wasn't cool to like Elvis. He hadn't been reborn yet. It was still this weird guy from the 50s.
Exactly.
Who played Vegas in white jumpsuits. And we were listening. Karate chops. And we were listening to Jethro Tull. And this guy had no relevance in our lives whatsoever.
Snot running down his nose.
Not running down his nose.
So basically, in the case of Elvis, although there are a lot of stories,
he died on the throne where a king should die.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah,
and then it's like they flush it. Oh, shit! I could make money off that.
And he pitched forward apparently.
So, he had a massive drug addiction. Had it for at least the last decade of his life.
He gained a ton of weight, eh?
No kidding.
Yeah, he was fat.
Well, his diet was no hell. Fried bananas drifting in bacon grease, whatever the hell it was. You're gonna die.
So you look good, eh? You're thin as a stick, man. It's good. You look
great, Alice. Who told you that? No, they're lying. You're great.
There was heart failure, basically like massive heart.
It exploded out of his chest
while on the throne.
Yeah, he's on the throne. He pitched forward.
You know, it's sad because Dennis Leary did a skit on Elvis, and he said, wouldn't it have been better if someone had came up to him in the late 50s, early 60s, and just shot him. He says, now we can remember Elvis as thin with a nice head of hair, good looking. He goes, how do you remember Elvis now? Overweight, fat, caught on the throne. And that was basically it. And it's a funny joke the way he said it, but it's kind of, Elvis, there's all these Elvis sightings, right? Apparently he's still alive.
Yeah.
He's all over the place.
He's everywhere. He's working harder than when he was...
apparently I think he took a part-time job at Home Depot or something.
I saw him there, actually.
In the toiletry, like in the plumbing department. So
he tested them out. Just a second, baby. I'm just sitting down here. It feels pretty good. Like that. It is Elvis.
I like to see this padded. Thank you very much.
Well, there's a great movie, actually, called Bubbo Tep.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's basically like, what if Elvis was still alive, but he would be in his...
It's a Bruce McDonald movie, and he's kind of in an institution.
Sure, yeah.
But this guy, he's walking around in an Elvis suit, too. Excuse me, baby.
So Elvis was born in 35, so he'd be in his 80s. Well, not too far from.
Yeah. With his diet, he could have still lived. Yeah, it's fine.
So basically, the idea of this film is that he's in this old folks home, and suddenly the black guy comes and becomes his roommate. And the black guy says, "I'm Kennedy." They just changed the color of my skin so that. So it's just the most insane.
It's a good movie.
It is, yeah.
I know it works, and it shouldn't.
Probably because of the Elvis imitation.
Bruce McDonald did a really good job in that. I don't know, baby. Like he's Southern drawl.
It's like that movie 3,000 Miles of Graceland with Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
That was okay. That was all right.
A bunch of Elvis thieves.
I know.
Kurt Russell and yeah.
And by the way, Kurt Russell was in an Elvis movie. There you go. Yeah.
Another one is John Lennon.
John.
December 1980.
Had he turned 40 at that point?
He was 40. And he just released Double Fantasy, which I had bought about 2 weeks before. Because we're kind of getting, where's his new stuff? It hadn't been for 6 years.
So you bought it, he passed away, and you said, boy, I'm glad I got it before he died, because then when he died, it went up in price.
Yeah, I just saved $2. Excellent. Buy a hamburger. No, he died. The way I was at university, this person, I'll put it that way, came into my little room there and said, John Lennon's been shot and killed. And I said to this person, said to her,
let's make love.
No, I said, I don't know about that, ma'am, but I do know this. No, I said, no, you have to understand, this happens all the time. The Beatles have been shot, Paul's dead. And then she said, no, he's been assassinated. And I said, assassinated? That's like for a Bobby Kennedy. You can't assassinate a musician. I started getting really I think my brain was denying it. So I went, this is when people had cable TV, straight cable, and I started flicking through the channels, and every channel had something about John Lennon. Oh, boy, that was it. And your heart sinks. They said, he's been shot? Like, why would you kill him? So don't make any more music. Why would you kill someone? So...
Well, especially considering how his career was going at that point.
Well, also, we weren't. Now everyone's used to that. But back then, why would you kill a musician?
That's the point. There's no.
I can't stand Kurt Cobain's music anymore. I'm going to shoot. And that was the way. Then we found out the assassin was severely mentally ill. That he, I don't know, was following something he read in J.D. Salinger's, Catcher in the Rye. Or the whole thing was just too weird. In fact, he shot him and then sat down on the curb to wait for the cops. Like, the whole thing is reading a book. So anyway.
So, although we could go on and on for hours, I think I'm going to finish on this one, which is, I think, one of the saddest ones.
What's that one?
Marvin Gaye.
I know. That is the saddest
one. Wait, who shot him? His dad? No,
that's what Kurt Cobain.
He was shot by his dad.
That was him, okay.
Yeah. After an argument, and he was shot with the gun he had given his dad as a Christmas present.
Hey,
does it mention what his father did for a living?
He was a cop.
No. In a way, but his father was a minister, an ordained reverend. So his father, the whole thing is just so bizarre. And Marvin Gaye had gone to his mother's house to kind of dry out from cocaine addiction. Mm-hmm. Like, the whole thing is just like a time bomb. And then he shot him. Like, the whole thing is just so bizarre. It's Sexual Healing, the album, which I also bought. It came out not long before. He was on a rebound, this and that. And it was another almost unbelievable one. So
yeah, exactly. And the reason why he was actually alcohol and drug addicted at that point was that he had just lost his longtime musical partner, Tammy Terrell.
Not quite. No, Tammy Terrell died in the 60s.
No, yeah, well, I mean, he spent basically a decade crying.
Oh, hang on a second. This is like the 50-mile skid. Yeah, hang on now. 10 years.
That was the excuse.
10 years of mourning this, and I gotta get over this. Another bag of coke. He was a mess for a while, and he was coming back to be shot by your father, and your father said with a gun you gave him for protection.
As a Christmas present.
The whole thing is, I can't write this. They'll never believe it.
So in other words, he's protecting from his son? Is that what it was?
Pretty well.
Jesus.
So yeah, he felt he was being threatened by his son. So, and a sidebar, if you want to hear a great rendition of the Star Spangled Banner, take a listen to. It wasn't a Super Bowl. It was a basketball game. Marvin Gaye singing the Star Spangled Banner a cappella.
Oh, that's probably an all-star game.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, maybe it was. It's just, boy, for my taste, better than Whitney Houston's.
Which is saying something.
You're just saying something.
She's in the Hall of Fame. Just saying. I know. That's it.
Yeah, on that sad note.
Yeah, I think we better.
All right, so I'm going to dearly depart. I'm Ferris Kennedy.
And I'm Dr. Ian Clark, who'll depart too.
And I'm Medicated Wheeler, and I'm going into a coma.
Goodbye.
Bye.